Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. In the Switch 2 Direct, they announced Switch 2 Edition games. And so this is obviously very interesting, and it kind of helps inform, or I mean, I guess it doesn't just inform, it really tells us what the plan is with backwards compatibility as a whole as we go forward. So really what it comes down to is that you're going to have some of these Switch 2 Edition games that are going to be extra enhancements to Switch 1 games, like the two Zelda games that I'm showing, and you'll have other enhancements as well, but they won't be as expansive as the Switch 2 editions. They'll just be patches that Nintendo provides, and a couple of games already announced to get those patches, like Odyssey and Scarlet and Violet are supposedly going to get these patches that presumably will help performance, but probably not quite to the same degree. I'm thinking maybe it would just increase frame rate, hopefully, especially for Scarlet and Violet. But the Switch 2 Edition games are much more expansive than that, so you'll have obviously enhanced frame rate resolution, and that's sort of what's happening with these two Zelda games, which are both going to be 60 FPS. I don't think we actually know what resolution they're getting to, if it's going to be 1440p or 4K, but either way, I'm pretty excited about the opportunity to play both these games in 60 FPS. I think it's going to make them both feel really, really good, and even in that clip just now with the Ultra Hand, usually when you use Ultra Hand, it would drop to like 17. It felt like the frame rate would half every time you initially open Ultra Hand, and then it kind of gets back to 30. But in that scene, it looked like pretty much smooth all the way. So I'm very excited about being able to just have that 60 FPS the whole way through and not experience that slowdown and stuff like that. But you also have a couple other additional things like this Zelda map or whatever, this Zelda Google Maps, and then you'll have these voice memories as well, which I think is really interesting. It is unfortunate that it's not like just built into the game. You have to have like the your phone next to you, which feels a little questionable, to be honest. But yeah, that does feel a little questionable, but we're here for it anyways. So I'm very excited about having these Switch 2 Edition games, where you'll definitely have much increased frames per second, resolution, just overall better performance. And then also it looks like some of them are going to have added content like Jamboree and Kirby do. So these Switch 2 Edition games I think are going to be pretty cool ways to re-experience games that are on the Switch that maybe had some issues performance-wise, or even some that don't, that it'll just be nice to have that boost. Now, we'll have to talk about price real quick, obviously. And the two Zelda ones are going to be free with the NSO expansion pack. So I imagine for, most of the people that are super interested in replaying these probably are also going to have the expansion pack already. So I would say for a lot of people, this will be, free, and air quotes. Obviously, you're still paying for the expansion pack, but that'll be nice. But they haven't really announced the price other than that. So I'm hopefully, I don't know if it'll be on a game-to-game basis. Like for Metroid Prime, it doesn't look like there's going to be any extra content. Same with Legend ZA. So maybe that one will be $10, and then Kirby and Jamboree are both like, look like pretty substantially changed or substantial new content, and maybe that will be more like a $20 upgrade. I don't know. Hopefully they're all closer to $10 and not 20 or 30 or whatever. So that we'll just have to wait and see to really find out, because really the price is going to be a big decider on whether these Switch 2 editions are going to be successful or not, or are going to be like, worth getting or not. But really, for me, mentioned price, but since these two Zelda games are going to be free with the expansion pack, um, I'm just really excited to replay them. I think they're going to feel so much better in that 60 FPS. Just going to feel so much smoother. And I've listened to some previews that people that got to play with the Switch 2 in their hands and got to play these games, and they said it feels really awesome. So I'm very excited about that, and I just kind of want to think about what games are going to get these Switch 2 editions, because all the games that they've announced so far are pretty high profile. I mean, really, Mario Party and Kirby are the two smaller ones, and both those games sold really well. And so it does make you think, like, what other games on the system right now are going to get those Switch 2 edition games, and are the games that are getting these patches, are they excluded from getting potential Switch 2 editions? So like Mario Odyssey, can that not get a Switch 2 edition now that they've done this patch? Like, they probably wouldn't have done the patch if it's going to get a Switch 2 edition. At least that's how I would think about it. Even though it's not technically, it doesn't technically have to be true that, with a patch that it can't be a Switch 2 edition. But to me, it seems unlikely that they do both of those. So to me, it seems unlikely that any of those games with a patch are going to also get a Switch 2 edition. So I think that will exclude some of those, which is interesting because Mario Odyssey is a pretty big game. So I don't know what they're going to do with this and how they're going to pick what games they're going to do. I would love if they would do the Xenoblade games, because I think they would all benefit so greatly from enhanced resolution and higher frame rate, especially Xenoblade X. I think higher frame rate would be very, very good for that game. I don't know if it's just me, but when I play that game, man, it's tough when it's at 30. I don't know if it like makes me feel sick a little bit, but it's not like crazy bad. It just makes me a little uncomfortable, and I don't know if that's related to the 30 FPS or like the I feel like it uses a lot of motion blur. Regardless, I really want to see the Xenoblade games get some enhanced Switch 2 editions, especially X and 3, but 2 could also really use one as well. And I'm not really sure what other games they'd really want to throw in there for these Switch 2 editions. I feel like the best games for these, for this kind of thing, are going to be, your single player focused, big world focused kind of games, which are kind of all the ones that they've done so far besides Mario Party. But Mario Party was really more focused on all the things they can do with the new hardware. So I'm not sure what other games they're really going to do with this. Like I said, I would love the Xenoblade ones, but how much more do they have? Because it doesn't feel like an enhanced Switch 2 edition of Smash would really make that much sense, because it's not going to take advantage of higher frame rate. It's a fighting game, so it kind of needs to stay at 60. Doesn't they probably want to do Mario Kart because they want you to get the new Mario Kart. Splatoon could use one for sure though, and it could actually. I think the Splatoon games are actually probably a pretty good shout, because it could take advantage of higher frame rates of getting to 120. 1080p 120 would be nice. And yeah, it actually could really take advantage, because there are pretty consistent frame drops in that game. Even in the actual battles, there's pretty consistent frame drops, which is pretty unfortunate. So I think definitely Splatoon 3 is a pretty good shout for a Switch 2 edition. But other than that, that's really the main one that comes to mind for me. It's such a big library. There's so many things they could do, but it's going to come down to what's really worth it, and where are you going to see these benefits? Because I think Three Houses would be nice to get a Switch 2 edition, but what is it really benefiting when it gets a Switch 2 edition? Because the problem for Three Houses is not like necessarily actually maybe in Three Houses, the exploring, if we could just get that to be 60 at all times, that would be a pretty big buff. That would be pretty nice. So I do think there's some more games that they can do Switch 2 editions for. Although I admit, I feel like I've gotten, the best 2 I could have gotten. and I just really want to see the Xenoblade ones after this. But really, these Switch 2 editions, I think, are going to come down to the price, and we'll just have to wait and see what that's going to look like. And it's also going to come down to what games they pick and how choosy are they going to be, and are they going to do these patches that are just going to theoretically, hopefully, give performance boosts as well? Because without that, it's going to suck if I pop in Xenoblade 3 and it still runs at 30 on the Switch 2. I really hope that there is, some level of, at least they are pretty generous with how many patches they give out, at least, even if they're not going to do a ton of Switch 2 editions. And I guess there is a chance that just popping it into something with more horsepower will at least smooth out the frame rate. There'll be less drops. I do think there's a chance of that being true, just because I don't know for sure how it'll work, but theoretically, if there's less, if it's less constricted by the hardware, hopefully it won't need to, or hopefully it won't cause as many frame drops. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling at this point though, so I'm just pretty excited about these Switch 2 editions, especially the Zelda ones. We'll have to wait and see what the prices come out to.